You are listening to the Lawyer Stories podcast with host Benny Gold. Lawyer Stories was founded in July 2017 on Instagram and is an expanding global network of lawyers and law students sharing their personal journeys to the noble profession of the practice of law. Join us on this podcast as we dig deeper into these stories and hear from lawyers and law students from around the world in all areas of the legal profession. Here at Lawyer Stories, we believe that every lawyer has a story. What's yours?
Welcome to the Lawyer Stories podcast with Benny Gold. Today we welcome in our friend Nicole Dolgon, partner at ESCA Legal, focusing on intellectual property, brand protection, deals and transactions in New York City. Modern counsel for modern brands. Love that. How are you, Nicole?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Of course. Good to see you. Thanks for coming in to Lawyer Stories HQ virtually.
I love it. You look great.
Thank you very much. So first off, obviously, we have to give a big shout out to our guest on episode 91, which was Marilyn Chinitz, your mother.
Yeah.
She's like pretty much a legend in our profession, big law lawyer and mentor. And now that your mom and I have become like personal friends on Instagram, I have to add something else to that list, which would be style icon. Like,
oh my God, I love it.
She's amazing the way she
she
carries
is.
herself. She's got the music going on her Instagram post. It's
and
just
she
like,
did it all on her own. I mean, she figured out Instagram on her own. I'm so proud of her.
So episode 91, great episode.
Yes, it was a really incredible episode.
Partner at Blank Rome, celebrity clients, just a really good story. So actually, let's just start with that, with you, Nicole. What's interesting is I asked your mom first about her about your grandparents, her parents, Holocaust survivors, and what it was like to grow up with them. But I want to ask you the same question. Like, what was it like to grow up with your mom? A hardworking, she always emphasized hard work on the podcast, and in some ways pioneering woman attorney in big law, although she never let that get her down. Like she just charged ahead. She didn't go with any of those like dramatic routes of like, discrimination, that sort of thing. We talked about it. So what was it like growing up with her as sort of a pioneer?
Absolutely incredible. I say my parents had no rules in our house. We could watch TV when we wanted. We could invite our friends over when we wanted, but we actually had one rule that we had to abide by, my brother and myself, which was our education and our academic achievements had to take priority over everything. So as long as we got our homework done and we studied hard and we took care of what we needed to take care of, then we could do as we wanted. But education, and I think that was something that my mom mentioned in her episode, was something that was so ingrained in us because my grandparents, as Holocaust survivors, they understood that your life could be taken away from you, but what couldn't be taken away from you is your education. So that was such a foundational principle my entire life, and that translated through my educational career, and then also the way that I move forward in my professional experience in my career. So to answer your question, nothing short of incredible than to have my mom as my mom, personally, professionally. She's a mentor for me, an inspiration for me. And, you and I were just talking about, I grew up in a place where a lot of women didn't work by choice. And I never had that experience. I remember so vividly waking up in the mornings, early in the morning. My mom is a very early riser. And she would set out all of her law books and materials and papers on our dining room table because that was the only writing space big enough for everything. Wow. And so I'd come downstairs at like 8 o'clock in the morning, kind of groggy, and she had been up working since 4:30 in the morning. So that's the model that I saw every single day and has stuck with me forever. And what I hope to show my two daughters as well, that model of hard work and perseverance and achievement.
Oh, I love that. Like you talking about like some of the, the women, like when you were growing up, like didn't work like by choice, you said, and like your mom
Mhm.
was still like on the grind, like doing it. You know, she was working 3 hours before you got up. I mean, obviously, you know, you're a kid, but it set like such a good example and a tone, and like that's
Sure.
probably all you know now is
Yeah,
hard,
it's
you know,
it's
hard
it's
work.
all I know. Yep,
Yes.
exactly.
So I don't know if this question is sort of obvious, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Like, when did you know like you wanted to take the path to law school? I mean, was it like really early on seeing your mom, or like did it take a little while to figure it out?
It was more by osmosis. I saw the way that she carried herself, advocated for her clients, the way that her brain worked, the way that she was able to issue spot and be creative about solutions. So it wasn't necessarily that there was a specific area of the law that I wanted to go into. Like I wasn't, married to a specific practice area. But I saw the way that her mind worked and the way that she was able to synthesize really complex issues and advocate for her clients. And that was what I really aspired to. So when I told her that I wanted to be an attorney, she said, "Okay, are you sure you really, really want to do this?" And I said, "Yes, I'm really, really sure that I want to do this. I want to think like an attorney, act like an attorney." And, my mom always said, and I agree with this wholeheartedly, when an attorney walks into the room, no matter what practice area they're in, it's instant credibility. It really is. Because you know that when a lawyer walks into a room, they have the work ethic, they have the ability to master all of these skills that other people may not necessarily have. So it's instant credibility whenever you walk into a room, irrespective of the practice
I
area.
love that. I don't think people say that enough, and I think that that's a huge point. Instant credibility, like no matter where you went to law school, no matter what, you know, where
Correct.
you're working, what area of practice, like you are an
Yep.
attorney, you've studied, you passed the bar, like you have that
That's
instant
exactly
credibility.
right.
I think that that's amazing. I'm so glad you said that, Nicole. So tell us a little bit about your law school experience. So you both went to Cardoza too, and
Yes.
that's like really that's the last Marilyn Chinitz, your mom question. But you both went to Cardoza. I made that connection, and I just
Yep.
know if like there was something before we talk about that. Like, can you imagine like the feeling when your kid says to you, "Mom, I want to go to law school. Like, I want to work hard. I want to do this," and she's like, "Are you sure?" "Yes, I definitely want to go." Could you imagine like what that feeling is like
It
for
must
a
be
parent?
so, I can't speak for her, obviously, but if my children were to come to me and say that, I would feel really gratified and really fulfilled. Like, okay, I think I did something right. I showed them
Yeah,
that I worked hard. I showed them what it meant, how impactful it was, and they still want to do it anyway.
yeah, yeah. That's amazing. So tell us about Cardozo, like the special place
Yeah.
that it is for you both.
I had the most wonderful experience at Cardozo. So I went to GW undergraduate and then I went straight through to law school. I didn't take any time in between. I was one of those people that really loved school. I loved learning. I loved my professors. I loved the format of law school. I will say my first year of law school, it was so incredibly difficult because I think, and you can agree with this, I'm sure, you're learning a new language, basically. You're learning a new way of thinking, a new way of communicating, and it's so foreign. But I was really lucky that I had incredible professors, an incredible academic infrastructure in the way that Cardozo is set up and the resources that they offer you. And being smack in the middle of New York City, I mean, like, what an asset with respect to exposure to everything. So when I was in law school, I really took full advantage of that. I was on, the Arts and Entertainment Law Journal. I was in a mediation clinic. I interned for a judge. I took advantage of everything that I could
It's amazing.
being at Cardozo. And I'm really lucky that I have a wonderful relationship. I'm very intimately involved with the school as an alum. And my law partner is a Cardozo alum,
Wow,
so we're
nice.
really passionate about giving back to the school. And my husband's a Cardozo alum, so I really
Wow,
keep it
nice.
in the
Did you meet
family.
that? Did you meet there or no? It
We
was
met in evidence class.
in evidence class. Wow, that's
In
great.
evidence. And our rabbi at our wedding, he actually married my parents too, and he also went to law school, our rabbi. And when he was speaking, he had this really cute quote because I told him that we met in evidence, and he was like, "The best evidence rule, which like you must
Yeah,
remember from like your law school days, is blah 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 about marriage." So it was very cute.
that's awesome. Yeah, I was trying to think of something witty. I just couldn't. Just now.
Just see you later.
I'm like, let's see, relevance, hearsay.
Yeah,
I'm like, no, nothing. Okay,
that's okay.
so that's pretty cool. All right, so you Cardozo and Cordoza. Yes, I don't know why I say Cardozo, but Cordoza,
It is Cardozo.
Cardozo. Why did I write Cardozo?
Yeah.
Bad, bad note right there. Okay, so Cardozo, that's awesome. And do you remember what you wrote for, just out of curiosity, for the Arts and Entertainment Journal when you were there? Like what kind of things you were? Okay, that's
I
okay.
mean, I mean, I wrote a note, which
That
is
was
the
like a
fun.
very specific
I
question.
wasn't
I'm just
published or
curious.
anything. I don't even remember. It was something privacy
Okay,
related.
all right.
I
Privacy was
just
very
don't.
interesting in law
It
school.
is very interesting. It's very complex,
Yeah,
changing every single year. But I wrote something privacy related. It wasn't good enough to get published.
but it was just a cool like journal that you were on
It
with.
was cool, yeah. So I got onto the journal, and then the following year I became one of the editors. So
Yeah,
that was very cool.
all right, good stuff. What advice would you have for somebody thinking about going to law school?
So much advice. I law school was really some of the best 3 years of my entire life. And so I have, kind of three nuggets of wisdom that I try to dole out because I speak to a lot of 1Ls and 3Ls. And this is what I try to tell them. I tell them, one, take every single interview that's offered to you, even if you know you will never take that job or never take that internship. Interviewing is some of the best practice where you hone your skills. And so even if you know off the bat, the pay is not good, the commute is too far, this isn't what I'm interested in, always take the interview because
Good
one,
advice.
you're honing your skills of interviewing and communicating and advocating for yourself, but you never know where that interview might lead you. The person might say, maybe you're not a great fit here, but I have a great friend who's a partner at such and such firm, and they're looking for this is what you're interested in. So I always say, take every single interview that's offered to you.
Great
I
advice.
think, and you might agree with this, you have this perception in your head of when you go to law school that your classmates are your adversaries immediately.
Right,
It's the competitive nature in all of
right,
us law students. And
right.
so I think that trips people up in one, preventing them from making really good friendships. And two, 20, 30 years later, that might be your partner, that might be your adversary, that might be your judge, that might be your client. So you should always, comport yourself with respect and a level of decorum that's not born out of, competition or I need a better grade or I found this, that, or the other, but really trying to make good, authentic relationships. And I would say that some of my very, very best friends I met in law school. Really,
I
truly.
think
In
that
the
that
trenches together.
Nicole, you're
Yeah.
like spitting some major, major good advice. I think no, I think that's incredible because I think some of us go in there so nervous and scared that like I'm
So
gonna tear the
nervous.
pages out of the book so nobody else
Yeah, or
can
you
find it.
wanna be, like, in the
This
front
person,
row answering every single
yeah, this
question and,
person's gonna be sitting. The person sitting next to me is not gonna be here. Like, and that, and then like for me, my biggest challenge was the Socratic method. Like I would
uh,
sit there and just like
oh,
was so nervous to get called on that I never absorbed
yeah,
anything.
I
So, I
know.
was just pretending like
Yes.
write notes so like maybe they
Yeah,
wouldn't I hated it. So,
I know.
but that is such good advice. And I think if people are like secure enough to go in there and actually like want to treat it as a job, just know that everybody there like I mean hindsight's 2020, but I think that's
Yeah.
really good advice.
And that's, one of the things that my mom told me before I started law school. I mean, there were so
Yeah,
many people in her graduating class that she, it works with professionally, knows, and it's a small, small community. And the third thing that I would say to law students that I think that sometimes we go into law school with this idea of, oh, I'm going to be a prosecutor, I'm going to be a public defender, I'm going to be a labor attorney, I'm going to, clerk for a judge or whatever. And then you start learning about that specific practice area, or maybe even interning or clerking, and realizing, oh my God, I've had my sights set on this since I was a child, and I actually really, really don't like it. As I said to you, going into law school and becoming an attorney is instant credibility. And so all of the skills are transferable. So
Yeah.
I always say to law students, don't ever feel stuck. I made a huge pivot in my career, which you and I have talked about. I went from matrimonial law, which my mom practices,
Yep.
and went into entertainment. Could not be more different, but could not be more similar in many ways also.
Right.
And so, you're never stuck. You're never married to one specific career path. You can, as long as you are out there and meeting people, you can change your practice area. You can do whatever you want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. That's such. I wish I had that advice. 20, like, I won't say how long ago, but that's really like sound advice. People are out there. They see, maybe they want to be like a defense attorney, and they see all these people on TV going in there with like Armani suits, and then they're watching the show Suits.
Yeah.
It
And
looks
then you're
cool.
like,
Like
it's
they're
not
they're
like
like
that.
arguing at like 3 in the morning. I always tell like my wife,
Yeah.
she loved the show. Like this is ridiculous. Like it's pitch black outside behind them. It's like they're in here at three
Yeah.
in the morning just arguing at each other. And so it's like you go into the practice and you realize it's not what you thought it was going to be, right?
Yeah.
So
Right.
you're able to pivot into something that's a little more
Yeah.
like your speed. So I think that
Yeah.
that's other really. Have you like written about these pieces of advice or like done
No,
a
should
post
I?
about it or like yeah, we should talk. You should write a blog post for our website about it.
That's a good
I'd love to
idea.
put it up because I think it's really
I
really
would love to do that.
yeah, you should.
Cardozo has invited me a few times to speak at new student orientation, which I'm
Wow.
very fortunate to do. And I love it.
Yeah.
I really love talking to incoming law students. It's
You have
great.
to
And the
like
other thing that my mom told me
yeah,
was never really let anything ruffle your feathers too much. Like and you know that she has the most high pressure job with clients that are very demanding. She always said, be a duck, calm on the surface, paddling along. Your legs underneath can do all of the work, but you always have to show up presentable,
right.
composed, poised. Never let anything really, really ruffle your feathers or see any insecurity or vulnerabilities about you. And I think, she mentioned that to you and you had asked her, did you ever experience any of that, you know, maybe discrimination or whatever that some, attractive young female attorneys? And she said, yeah, I did, but like, so what? I moved on. I worked really hard and I got past all of that. And so that was something that always kind of stuck with me too.
Yeah, I think I mean, I remember talking to her. I think it was more about, yes, you're right, like the discrimination, but men because it was sort of an old boys club back then. And like if people
Or
sort of giving them the work and not giving her the opportunity, then of course there's like the pay gap thing. But yes, that's exactly, that is what we were discussing in one of my questions. So when you go and speak in front of our Cardozo, do you have to like bring note cards or do you just like talk?
Oh, I always prepare.
No, I mean, but
I mean,
are
if
you
you,
taking
I
note cards?
have, no, I don't read. I write down, but I love
Okay,
public speaking. I know
okay.
like I'm such a nerd, but I love
No, it's
public
amazing. I'd love
speaking.
some advice for public speaking too, actually.
You're great. You don't need any advice. This is public
Oh,
speaking
I
in
guess
many
so.
ways, but no, I really enjoy it. It becomes, I mean, the best types of conversations like these are conversations where it doesn't feel like I'm like reading off a sheet. But yeah, I
Yeah.
always have bullet points. My mom can just like completely go spontaneously and like, rattle off a speech that's like touching and beautiful and wonderful. But I'm like,
It's
I don't
awesome.
know. I'm always like taking
Your
notes
wedding
and
must have been
memorizing them.
insane, huh? With that stuff.
What'd you say?
Wedding must have been insane with that sort of stuff.
Oh my God, there were so many speeches. I mean, can you imagine how many lawyers were in that room? Everyone loves to talk.
That's so great. So Nicole, we featured you on Lawyer Stories not too long ago. You started your story with, in law school, I was always exploring unique paths to blend my love for pop culture with the law.
Yep.
So this next line, my curiosity drove me to try to demystify the intricate deals that fuel celebrity success. Like, tell me more about that.
Sure. Avid consumer of pop culture. I am. Love social media, magazines, print, tabloids. I devoured and continue to all of it. And so I started to see 10, 12 years ago, all of these celebrities were becoming the covers of the magazines, not models or editorial or whatever, but celebrities were really becoming brands. They weren't just actors or actresses or singers or movie stars or whatever. They were multifaceted companies, enterprises, entrepreneurs. And I was really fascinated by that. How did they get out of their lane? How did they create a cult of personality, a brand for themselves, and probably derive most of their revenue from all of these different alternative paths aside from the skill that they're known for? And so I started to become really interested in, this celebrity is doing a perfume. Who's the manufacturer? How are they distributing it? Do they even have a perfume history? Where are they selling it? What's the value proposition there?
Wow.
And so that, I had, as I mentioned to you, a stint in matrimonial law, which I learned so much from, and I litigated, and that was an incredible experience. But when I moved over to Ellen DeGeneres, which I'm sure we'll talk
Yep.
about, that was really, really interesting for me to learn about, kind of lifting the curtain behind all of these really successful celebrities who became, you know, makeup beauty gurus
Hmm.
and perfume owners and furniture designers and all of these different things aside from what they were known for. So I love learning about that. I love counseling my clients on that because it's a real kind of soup to nuts situation. You start with a concept of who the celebrity is and what they want to achieve and what they're trying to do, and then going forward to putting whatever that product or service is in the hands of consumers, and maybe different consumers than the ones that they had in the first place. So it's very cool. That was
Wow.
a very long-winded answer
No, no, that's
to your
amazing. I mean,
question
well,
about a
you're
singular
obviously
sentence.
you're obviously very passionate about. I mean, that's why it was in your lawyer story. I mean, that was like the second question. I mean, the second line, and I thought it was pretty interesting how you just said like demystifying the intricate detail deals that fuel celebrity success. So you do have some really cool experience. I know you were talking about the firm you worked for right out of law school, um,
Mhm.
and then you moved over to working as a director of business development and licensing at Ellen DeGeneres for almost 4.5 years. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
It was fantastic. So as you said, I started doing matrimonial law, and I litigated, and that was a really incredible experience. It was the first time I really had direct client interface. And it was a boutique firm. I had a lot of responsibility, a lot of autonomy. I was in court on my own, and I was, 25, 26 years old. It was very cool. It was a great
Wow.
experience. Built up my confidence level. I ultimately decided that litigation was not what I wanted to do. Matrimonial was not what I
What
wanted
was
to
it
do.
about litigation that you were like, I'm glad I did it,
I,
but now time.
it's the same answer as why I like having partners come together for a mutually beneficial purpose.
Okay.
And obviously, there's that aspect to it in matrimonial, but both parties walk away satisfied that
Yeah.
they've created and built something together.
Got you.
And I it, it litigation is, if I always say, if you're not being yelled at by your client, by the partner, by your adversary, by the judge, then what are you doing? But it was very hard for me to continue with that. I wanted to do something that was more business and commercial in nature,
Okay.
so that's why I ultimately decided to pivot. But it really set me up with a lot of incredible transferable skills.
In like connecting with people or just
Connecting
like
with people,
like
because whether you're in a courtroom or you're in a boardroom, you're still presenting your point of view. You're still presenting the issues that are important to you, the positions that are important to you, the points that you're important to. You're taking that back to your client who happens to be the celebrity or the business, but it's similar in many ways. So I was at a firm for about a year and a half, decided that was not what I wanted to do. And I moved over to Ellen DeGeneres, which I told you about.
Yep.
And the CEO of the company was also a former matrimonial attorney herself. And I met her, and she had made this fabulous pivot from matrimonial also over to, for her, it was fashion and then ultimately
Okay.
entertainment. Um, and I basically said to her, I need to work for you. Like I must learn from you. I must work from you. Whatever you're doing is a recipe for success. Like, please let me work for you. And so at the time, Ellen's company was really in its infancy. Obviously, she had the show through Warner Brothers out in Los Angeles, but the lifestyle brand component of it was in New York. And that was slowly getting built out, because you have
Really?
to remember that she was really one of the first celebrities who cultivated the power of licensing and building out a lifestyle portfolio. You obviously had Martha Stewart and other people too, but she was really the first to put her name and rent her name likeness and all of that stuff to all of these different product areas. So the company was in its infancy. I begged to work for her. Ultimately, she called me and she said, okay, I have a spot for you. And I learned so much
Yeah.
by being there and working with. So I worked directly under the CEO. She's still an
Wow.
incredible mentor to me. And I speak with her all the time. And so we built it out as this team, and it was really, really amazing.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, what kind of things were you doing for Ellen DeGeneres?
Yeah, so we built out her licensing portfolio. And so what that means is we really understood the power of her as a celebrity and talent. There are very few celebrities who I think have the wide range of power and attractiveness that she does.
Mhm.
It's very hard to find this person over here and this person over here, and they both like the same person. So we really harnessed that power and tried to find licensing areas that resonated with her and resonated with her audience. So what that meant for me was, in the initial stages of, hey, I think that we want to enter into this category for Ellen. There's a demand for it. Let's do some due diligence on partners and see we should work with. So I would do due diligence on partners and present it and say, this company has capabilities in XYZ. This company has really strong distribution connections. This is who we should consider partnering with. Then we would go forward with, meeting with them, negotiating with them, moving forward to a letter of intent, executing the agreement,
Wow.
and then the fun stuff, which is really building out from beginning to end product, promotion, marketing, distribution, harnessing the power of Ellen and at the time her show
Wow.
to support that infrastructure. So that was fantastic.
Sounds like you were working a lot. That's like a lot of work. Oh my
It
goodness.
was really, but I always say, like, I really, really love what I do. I mean, obviously there are components to it that are more difficult than others, but like I really, really enjoy what I do because, like I said in my lawyer story on Instagram, like I've always loved, like, this doesn't feel like tedious work to me. I
Right.
love pop culture. I love learning about, who the great deal makers are, who the great brands are, and so I've always enjoyed it.
Yeah, no, that's number one. I mean, you got to enjoy it, right? So that's terrific. So you then moved on to Party City, right? For like
Yeah,
a
so
little over
I
a
was
year. So let me ask you, I was thinking, okay, Party City, right? So
yeah.
when you walk into, and I know it's not like, the like the warehouse, like the retail store, but like when you walk into Party City, they have just like balloons everywhere, like when you go to work. Is that like what how?
No, it was a beautiful office space. When I was there, they moved into a brand new HQ and it was really gorgeous. And what was very cool about the company is that they really valued celebration. So wherever they could celebrate their
That
employees,
should be like their slogan, Nicole, like value
I I
celebration, right? I
I,
mean,
I think some offshoot of it is.
okay.
Um, I don't think I came up with that on my own. I'm not that clever.
Celebration. Okay.
Um, but they really emphasize celebration. So they would have, big balloons that they were testing out, or like big Halloween animatronics and stuff. And that was really cool. So I left Ellen. I was there for 4.5 years, and I left Ellen when the show ended. May, what year are we in? 2022. And I went over to Party City, and
Yep.
I was senior counsel over there. And at that point, I really wanted to try my hand at being a little bit more of a corporate generalist. And so having exposure to many different areas within the business. And so Party City was a retailer that had a e-commerce component or a retail component, a publicly traded company, um, and was a very small legal team.
Okay.
So I had the real benefit of learning directly from our fabulous general counsel and being exposed to all of these different areas of the business. Because when I was at Ellen, it wasn't that it was singular, but it was more concentrated in a specific area of the law or entertainment. And when I was at Party City, I worked on everything. I learned more about the helium industry than I
Yeah,
ever
like
thought
what?
I learned in
Like
my entire life.
take me through some of like the Party City stuff. Like, what do you? I mean,
It it it
what's some
ran
of the
the
legal
gamut. It
issues?
ran
Okay.
it ran the gamut. So there's real estate, obviously. There's a huge real estate component to all of
Okay.
it. They employ a massive workforce, both corporate and employees in the retail locations.
Okay.
Manufacturing and
So
all
when
of
you say real estate, I don't mean to cut you off. Do you mean like leasing like different locations and stuff like that? Okay.
correct. Yep, yep. Um, uh, Master services agreements for all different types of industries, everything from getting corrugated paper for manufacturing and
Wow.
packaging to one of the great deals that I worked on was Party City partnering with Uber Eats to get delivery of Party City goods. I mean, how great is that? You have your kid's birthday party. Oh my God, I forgot to get napkins. Let me
Right. Oh,
Uber
that's
Eats
pretty
it,
dope.
and
Yeah,
it comes to
that's
me in
cool.
2 hours.
So yeah, do things like really heat up around Halloween? Like, is it like super busy around Halloween? You're like
Totally, totally. Halloween for them starts like in April.
in April. Wow. Yeah. I mean, so
It
that's I mean, still kind of fun. Like you're working with like funds, or does it make
no,
it not fun because it's work? I mean, the
no, it was so fun because the premise, as I said, was party and celebration. And it was an extremely small legal team and one that was very supportive of one another. And so I really appreciated the wonderful mentorship that I had because
okay.
I was kind of thrust into many different areas of the law that I literally had no experience with whatsoever. And I had the benefit of having seasoned attorneys work with me on a very, detailed, granular level and explain things to me. And that was incredibly beneficial. So having that real corporate generalist experience, I think kind of just brought me to a new level in my
Right. You
career.
you have some incredible experience, like to leading up to this point. It's really, that it's a lot of different varied experience. I mean, you really do have like the celebrity experience, and you have like
Sure.
the value of good party experience, which is incredible. So, like, when did you know? Like, tell me about like the lead into ESCA.
Sure. So I was at Party City for a while, and I ultimately decided that I had fantastic experience there, but I wanted to do something a little bit on a different scale. I wanted to really cultivate my brand. I wanted to be in a client development position because I found that I had been within corporate culture for a long time, which certainly has its positives, but I really felt like I had the potential and the capability to bring in clients, get invested in their businesses, and work hand in hand with them in a way that an in house counsel would, but as outside counsel. So, my partner at ESCA, which is the firm that I work, is a woman named Francesca Witzberg. Francesca was my outside counsel when I worked at Ellen DeGeneres. She was the managing associate at Dentons, which is a huge international law firm.
Okay.
And we worked very closely together while I was at Ellen, and we became really, really good friends. And she is someone that I've always relied on from a professional perspective. I lean on her for all kinds of advice and guidance and wisdom. From a personal perspective, she's also a mother of two young children, like I am. And so I called her when I was at Party City, really trying to figure out what my next step was. I had all these ideas in my head, and she confided in me, I'm starting my own firm. Why don't you come over and join
Wow.
me? Let's work on this together. And obviously, that was a huge risk for me in many ways because, as I said, I had been a very standard kind of corporate culture attorney my almost my entire career.
Sure.
And to go from that to a small firm where you really eat what you kill, you're going out and you're finding clients and you're bringing in business and you're trying to figure out how to scale yourself and build your own brand. But she was so influential in me making that decision because I saw the success that she had with it.
Mhm.
And I knew that I had that within me and that I wanted to replicate that in many ways and find my own path. And so I had my second child in August of last year, and then started work full time for the firm in October. And it's
Wow.
been an incredible experience and a
And
whirlwind.
everything that she was gonna like the case that she was gonna take on and everything that was like, hey, that's like right up my alley. Like that's what I want to do. Like that sort of thing.
So Francesca is an incredible seasoned intellectual property attorney.
Okay.
And with my background in licensing, which is licensing IP, and my experience as a bit of a corporate generalist at Party City, the thought was she would lead the IP practice and I would lead the commercial practice, which is how
Okay.
we function. And in the past year, we've built out the firm to be a real full service IP firm. We have Francesca, obviously, at the helm, me leading the commercial practice. We have two litigators, one in California, one in New York. We have a patent attorney now because so many of our clients were asking if we could do their patent applications for them.
Mhm.
We have associates, we have paralegal,
Good.
we have really built out a full service firm for our
And by the
clients.
way, your website looks tremendous. I love it. It's
Thank
great.
you.
And I had
Because
a
it doesn't
note.
look like a law firm.
Well, no, I mean I had a note here about your website. Actually, I'm looking for it. So your website's amazing. There's a lady walking in a black leather dress with like no body on it. And like though it was super cool. It was like I don't
Yeah.
know like what you how you phrase that in New York. I mean, New York people are very stylish and like up to date with those things, but it's really sleek. I don't know, is that an okay
Thank
word?
you. No, I so appreciate that you said that because
Yeah,
what you said in the beginning of this session was we pride ourselves on being modern counsel for modern brands.
right,
That's how we pitch ourselves, right? We want to show our clients are brands that we admire and that we use every day. We are the
right.
consumers of their products. And so we're trying to get away from the old school mentality of how a law firm should operate, really put ourselves in the shoes of the consumer and advocate for our clients and work with our clients in that way. So when you say, your website looks really, really sleek, it's because we didn't want it to look like a law firm website. We wanted it to look like a fabulous advertising agency or a
Yeah,
marketing
yeah, I could
agency,
see. Yeah, I could
something that
definitely see that.
that
Yeah,
shies away from like, you know, old school, this is the way it always has been. We're really trying to shake things up in that way.
yeah. No, I love that. So, and I have a couple more questions about. Well, we'll get to them about some of the like interesting pieces of the law, but tell us about ESCA Legal. Like, what kind of clients are coming to you for the work? Like, what kind of work do they need done? Who's coming to ESCA saying, "Hey, I need this done, that done"?
Our clients are brands with an IP focus,
Okay.
and it runs the gamut. We have fashion clients. We have clients that are in the home space. We have a large fabric manufacturer. We have interior designers. We have furniture advisors. We have beauty and skincare brands that are global. We have influencers, content creators, celebrity talent who are building out their licensing portfolio. The thread for all of this is that our clients are brands, meaning they have an IP focus that they pay attention to. that they are acutely honed in on the importance of social media, the importance of digital, the importance of emerging technology, and they want to figure out how to utilize that in the best way. So it's different, categories of clients, but that's the unique thread that kind of
Mhm.
ties them together.
Okay, very cool. Very cool. So, do you have what are some of the interesting cases or legal issues that you've had to work on?
Sure. So I've been very lucky. I've had two really interesting secondments. I'm working on one of them right now with two
The
very big
who?
licensing agencies. Secondment. A secondment is when you have an attorney step in an in-house capacity. So I have, my clients that I work on, but I've been working closely with two very big licensing companies as if I were in-house counsel for them.
Okay,
And that has been
great.
really interesting and fascinating because I bring my in-house counsel experience, even though I'm outside counsel, but really immerse myself in their business. I have a fabulous skincare and beauty brand that is kind of all the rage with younger kids. And for that Gen Z, they're all about makeup and beauty and Sephora. And I've learned so much with them about cultivating the power of that Gen Z buying generation and how to utilize that. um, I work on with great influencers. That's really an interesting area that I've now exposed to is content creators and the power
Yeah,
that
yeah, I
they
have.
have and
Yeah, that's
the
definitely.
leverage.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. I totally cut
No,
you.
no, no, please go ahead.
So, like, how are most of these people finding you? That's such an interesting new frontier when we talk
Yeah.
about the content creators. And I want to ask you about that. But how do you think people are mostly like finding you? I mean, do you think it's a website? Do you think it's social media now? Do you think it's word of mouth?
I
Do you think it's
think
a little of
it's
everything?
all the above.
Okay.
I think it's a great website. I think it's social media. I think it's tapping into our communities. As I said, Francesca and I are both alums of Cardozo. We have a fabulous, strong alumni community. Cardozo Magazine is doing a big piece on us in September.
Wow. Okay.
We're really tapping into the communities that have supported us. Um, Francesca has an incredible, it's not a podcast, but she runs an Instagram live show every week.
Okay.
And, once you kind of build up, no, I don't think we don't necessarily get clients who say, "Hey, I saw your video. Can I retain you?" But it's more of, "Hey, I saw your video. I have a friend who needs help with this. Do you think I could connect the two of you?" And once you kind of build up that exposure, it starts to happen. The other thing that I'll say is Francesca and I are out all the time.
Mm.
We are meeting people for coffee, for lunch, for breakfast, for dinner, for drinks.
How do you
And
stay
not,
so? How do you stay so svelte
oh my God,
when you're
you're so
doing
kind.
coffee? Like
There
I
must
go
be
away to a
something
conference for a weekend,
there,
and I'm like, I
there
can't
must be
handle it.
something on this camera because I'm so not.
What
Um,
did you just say? I'm sorry.
I said there must be something wrong with your camera because I most certainly am not. But we are constantly making lists of this person is doing something really, really interesting. Let's figure out how to get to him or her. Or I know this person tangentially through this. Let's get an
Okay.
introduction because he's doing something really, really cool. But it's not in like a tacky networking way.
Right.
We're really genuinely interested in their business because their business could be the new frontier or they're figuring out how to monetize something that wasn't monetized previously. And so we don't even use the word networking. We say we are going to the bar. We are building authentic relationships with people,
Yeah.
because that is really, I think, what clients resonate with when hiring an attorney. Is there are tons of brilliant attorneys out there, obviously, but you want somebody that you trust, that is authentically him or her, that brings you something of value that somebody else hasn't. And that's how turn the wheels of client development. Listen, I'm no expert, obviously, but that is what I have seen has resonated is putting yourself out there, but in an authentic manner.
Yes, authenticity is huge, and I mean that. by the way, if if you ever see anybody on Lawyer Stories or anywhere that we can make an intro, a warm
Oh,
introduction to
thank
you,
you.
we'd be happy to do it. I love doing
That's
it.
so nice.
It's amazing
Thank you.
too.
I very much appreciate
Yeah,
that.
yeah, of course. So did we talk about the cases that you were? Yeah, you were talking about. Okay, yes, you talked about the secondment cases. Okay, so what are some trends and like challenges, legal challenges with license? I don't know. I misspelled a lot of things in my notes earlier
That's
today. So
okay.
are there like challenges that you're seeing, like with and some trends like in legal in licensing and in IP?
I think something that I'm noticing, celebrities are paying a lot more attention to retaining ownership over their name, image, and likeness. We've seen a lot of celebrities lose the rights to their name because of a big transaction that they've done. I've seen that with Jessica Simpson. I've seen that with Bobby Brown, who have their brands modeled after their names. And when they sell that, they lose the rights to that. So if they ever want to capitalize on their name again, they have to buy back the rights to their very own name. It happened with Jessica Simpson, where she did a deal. I'm probably butchering some of the details, but she did a big deal where she sold her brand to a company. That company then sold their portfolio, of which her brand was a part, to another company. And 10 years later, she couldn't use her own name on her own clothing or
Wow,
apparel or accessories or whatever. So, one of the trends that we're seeing is that people are paying a lot more attention to ownership over their name, image, and likeness. And even if they do a transaction where they're selling a big part of their portfolio or whatever, they're figuring out how to retain rights to that. The other thing that we're seeing a lot of is a big focus on sustainability and ESG. So, in the past, I don't think that that was paid attention to enough. You kind of just figured out where you can manufacture cheaply and you picked whichever partner gave you the best pricing. People are really interested in making sure that whomever they're working with is manufacturing ethically, they're corporate socially responsible, they're doing packaging and manufacturing in a way that complies with sustainability and ESG standards. Another big thing that we're seeing a lot of is with influencers and creators making sure that they're tagging their advertisements correctly
wow.
on and disclosing that they're getting paid for things, whereas previously they didn't. The FTC really cracked down on that. So there's all these different
Really?
areas
Are
that
they still
are
cracking
emerging.
down on that a lot? FTC?
Oh yeah, but people are a lot more diligent about complying with it. You are rarely seeing an ad where somebody is getting some type of monetary benefit and they're not disclosing that. But what's really cool about what I do is what I just said to you. I just labeled privacy, sustainability, tech. These are all really interesting areas of the law that I get exposure to by virtue of what I do. So it's not so straight and narrow all the time. I love that I get to tune into all of these different areas.
So yeah, and we're talking about upcoming like new frontiers of the law, and a couple of things that I had written down from your website that I'm actually personally interested in, not to like do anything with them, but just because
Yeah.
it sort of seemed like it went like this and then sort of like this, but
Hmm.
blockchain, metaverse, those things seem to have like peaked during COVID a little bit, and like I don't
Yeah,
know if there's still like any
I think
traction.
a little bit. I mean, my clients don't dabble in that. I mean, you have a little bit of like virtual goods. I think the
Okay,
thing that my clients are attuned into now is really AI and
okay,
how to capitalize on AI and use that to support their business.
okay,
Um, and it's very interesting because this is an area that the law hasn't quite caught up with yet. One of my clients came
right,
to me and said, "Hey, I need to overhaul my employee handbook to create an AI policy.
yeah,
I
wow,
want to make sure that I'm not hit with any claims because I have a client that utilized Chat GPT for everything, and
Wow.
we got stuck with some type of claim as a result of that. So, the law is, I guess, trying to catch up, but it's really it's a little scary, but it's also really, really, really interesting.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I
if
feel
you
like
realize
that's what was
it,
happening with the metaverse, though. Like the law was trying to catch
yeah,
up, and then I feel like it, like not like it just kind of like
yeah.
nothing really. I'm sure it's still going on out there, but people were like creating like these like cartoons for themselves.
Yeah, and there were a lot of I mean, listen, it's not my specialty, but I think there were also a lot of infringement issues with
Okay,
that.
all right,
That's another big thing that our firm really has a very strong practice area in is brand protection.
very good.
We have an incredible brand protection specialist who works closely with us, and he's former law enforcement. So many of our clients are brands that have consumer product goods, and they're getting knocked off left, right, and center.
Wow,
And IP is a company's biggest asset. It's their biggest asset, while they're producing and manufacturing. It's also one of their biggest assets when they exit. Probably their biggest asset when they exit. And so what we're noticing, we have a few companies, a few clients right now who are at the negotiating table with potential investors or partners. And their first question is, what does your IP portfolio look like? What have you protected? Are you getting knocked off? Is this going to be a big liability for us because you're getting infringed upon left, right, and center by, sophisticated factories in China? That's a big, big problem for our clients. So we've built out, because of that, whole brand protection program that focuses on identifying the problem and tackling it, and not just a historical customary cease and desist, but really from beginning to end building out a strategy so that you're stopping it in its tracks, stopping it from moving forward, so you can come to any type of negotiation about it.
okay.
Did I lose you?
We just froze for like a minute, but we're good. We're good.
Okay.
Um, yeah, no, you could tell you're definitely like you're very passionate and like up to speed about like what you're doing, and you take your
Oh, thanks.
like the clients' cases like very seriously with all, and a lot of it's like I think what goes back to what we discussed earlier about just like lawyers being like law students, we're sort of like resourceful, like you figure out how to go about things, and a lot of this stuff is like new frontier. I mean, even cannabis is like also huge now. I saw that on the website. We don't have to talk about it,
Yeah.
but it's more than just like bong hits and like smoking jays. Like it's really like gummies, and like what's the regulation around it, like do we treat it like alcohol, and like so there's all these things like that we're trying to regulate and like figure out the
Yeah.
best way to handle things for your client.
Yeah.
So like what advice would you give somebody who wants to get into doing what the type of work that you're doing?
What I really enjoy doing and what I learn a lot from is really investing in my clients' businesses. And what I mean is learning their infrastructure inside and out, learning their positions on issues, meeting all of the relevant people from the business side, the marketing side, the finance side, the accounting side, really understand. Because if I don't understand their business, then I can't do good work for them. Sure, I could get a contract and redline it in, the way that any other lawyer would redline it and just
Yeah.
send it back and go back and forth for whatever and waste clients' money and time and whatever. I really need to get in there,
Right.
and I really need to be able to get a state of the union on the company in order for me to make informed decisions about how I should counsel you and how I should guide you. So my number one advice would be, you are interested in doing this, learn about the businesses that you want as clients. And once they become your clients, get in there, get your hands dirty, learn about everything, learn about their accounting procedures, learn about their HR procedures, learn about their marketing plan, their business strategy, everything.
Right.
Because that is how you make informed decisions as an attorney when you're counseling your client.
That's great. So where do you see yourself 3 to 5 years from now?
wildly successful. No, I'm just
There
kidding.
you go. Okay.
Um,
What's wrong with that?
um, right now, I'm putting a lot of focus on building my unique brand. You know, what do I bring to the table? I have a fabulous firm and a fabulous support system and infrastructure. I want to be able to bring incredible clients in that have businesses that I admire and that I am the consumer of. And I really am so incredibly grateful to work with all of my clients because they are all so interesting and so passionate about what they do that it makes me passionate about what I do and how I can support them and to continue on that trajectory.
Yeah, that's amazing. Congrats on all your success.
Thank you.
Did we leave anything out? I hope I didn't leave anything out that you want to talk about.
No, I think we got everything. You were
Good.
so thorough.
Good. Well, that was awesome. Like you really shared a lot. I appreciate that.
Thank
Is there
you.
anything else that you want to say to the lawyer stories community here?
I think that you covered everything, but I really enjoy being a member of this community, and if I could ever be helpful to anybody, whether that's advice or something that I'm working on that might be interesting to you. Like I really enjoy being a community member. I said that about Cardozo. I am so appreciative of what you've built and continue doing it because it's great.
Well, thank you so much, Nicole Dolgan, ESCA Legal. Thanks for being here. Stay right there. Everybody else, wherever you are in the world today, enjoy yourselves. Cheers.
Thank you.